You're born in Egypt. Sounds fine, right? Except it's around 1300 BCE, and Pharaoh has just issued a decree that every Hebrew baby boy gets thrown into the Nile. Congratulations, you're a Hebrew baby boy. Your mother, Jochebed, refuses to let that happen, so she does the only logical thing a desperate mother can do. She waterproofs a basket, puts you inside it, and sets you floating down a river full of crocodiles. That's her plan, a basket, against the Nile, and somehow, it works. Pharaoh's own daughter pulls you out of the water, looks down at this screaming Hebrew infant, and decides to keep you. Just like that, you go from scheduled for drowning to raised in the most powerful palace on earth. Plot twist of the century. Here's the cruel joke, though. Your actual mother gets hired as your wet nurse. She raises you right under Pharaoh's roof, knowing exactly who you are, and she can never tell you. You grow up thinking you're Egyptian, eating Egyptian food, wearing Egyptian linen, learning Egyptian everything. You have no idea your entire identity is a lie. Somewhere in the palace, your real family is living as slaves. Fast forward. You're a grown man now, educated, privileged, powerful. The palace life is good, and then one day, you see it. An Egyptian guard beating a Hebrew slave. Something snaps. You look around, nobody watching, and you kill him. Just like that, the palace life is over. You bury the body in the sand and think it's done. It is not done. Word gets out almost immediately because it always does. Pharaoh finds out and wants you dead. The same man who basically raised you now wants your head. So you run. You, a prince of Egypt, are now a fugitive sprinting into the desert with nothing. You end up in Midian, a nobody in a foreign land. You marry a woman named Zipporah, become a shepherd, and spend 40 years, watching sheep in the wilderness. The guy who grew up in a palace is now a shepherd. No power, no status, no mission, just sand and livestock for 4 decades. You are 80 years old when things finally change. 80. Most people are winding down at 80. You're just getting started because that's when a bush catches fire and doesn't burn up, and a voice comes out of it, and the voice says, "Go back to Egypt. Free my people." You obviously do not want to do this. You literally argue with God. You say you're nobody. You say nobody will believe you. You say you can't speak well. Some traditions say you had a stutter. God's answer to all of this: I'll send your brother Aaron with you. Cool. You've been replaced as the main speaker at your own divine mission. Fine. You go, you march back into Egypt, the country that wants you dead, and walk straight into Pharaoh's palace to demand the release of an entire enslaved people. Pharaoh laughs at you. Pharaoh's advisors laugh at you. And to make his point, Pharaoh makes the Hebrew slaves' lives even worse. Now they have to gather their own straw for bricks on top of their existing quota. Because of you, the Hebrews are furious. At you. You came to help, and somehow made it worse in the first week. Then come the plagues. 10 of them. Blood, frogs, lice, flies, livestock disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally, the death of every Egyptian firstborn. The Nile you were nearly drowned in as a baby turns to blood. The country you grew up in gets systematically destroyed. The people you once lived among suffer catastrophically. And every time it looks like Pharaoh is about to break, every single time, he changes his mind and says no. Some traditions say God hardened his heart deliberately, which means the plagues weren't just persuasion, they were the point. You're just the instrument. Nobody asks if you're okay with that. Finally, Pharaoh breaks. The Hebrews are free. 600,000 people, some accounts say more, pour out of Egypt and into the desert, and you're in charge of all of them. All of them. People who have never made a decision for themselves. People who were slaves their entire lives. People who, the moment things get difficult, immediately start saying they want to go back to Egypt, back to slavery, because at least in Egypt, there was food. You are leading the world's most ungrateful migration. The complaining starts almost immediately. There's no water. There's not enough food. The food God miraculously sends from the sky, manna, bread that literally rains, down every morning, is boring. They're tired of it. They want meat. God sends quail. They complain about that too. You go up a mountain for 40 days to receive the laws that will define civilization. 40 days. You come back down, and they've already built a golden calf and started worshiping it. You've been gone for 40 days. In a moment of pure rage, you smash the stone tablets, the ones God personally engraved, on the ground. You have to go back up the mountain and do the whole thing again. The mountain, by the way, is on fire. This is your life now. Mediating between an impatient God and 2 million complaining people, and somehow always being in the middle, when both sides are furious. Your own sister Miriam speaks against you. Your brother Aaron, the one God sent along because you were too nervous to speak alone, participated in the golden calf incident. Your inner circle keeps betraying you. A man named Korah leads a full rebellion against your leadership. The ground swallows Korah alive, which settles that argument, but the people are somehow still angry at you for it. You spend 40 years in the desert, 40 years. The trip from Egypt to Canaan, the promised land, Bodu, and is not a 40-year journey. It's a few weeks of walking, but the people doubted. They were afraid, they refused to trust, and so God said, fine, this generation doesn't get to go in. They'll wander until everyone who left Egypt has died. Every funeral in the desert is a reminder. Every grave in the sand is another year down. You are now 120 years old. You have led these people through plagues, through the sea, through the wilderness, through wars, through hunger, through mutiny, through grief. You have given them their laws, their covenant, their identity as a people. And then God tells you something that stops you cold. You don't get to go in either. Earlier, during one particularly bad moment in the desert, when the people were screaming for water, God told you to speak to a rock and water would flow. Instead, you hit it twice. In frustration, in exhaustion, after decades of this, you hit the rock. And that was enough. That was the line. You climbed Mount Nebo. You looked out over the Jordan River. You could see it. Canaan, the land promised to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, the land you spent your entire life trying to reach. Green hills, the Jordan glittering below. You saw it, and then you died, right there on the mountain. Alone. Joshua led the people in. No one knows where your grave is. The text says God buried you and the location was never revealed. The man who spoke to God face to face. The man who split a sea. The man who shaped an entire civilization's moral code. No tomb, no monument, no promised land. Just a view from a mountain and then nothing. You gave everything. And the thing you wanted most. The one thing you never got to touch. That's the life of Moses. And yeah, it really sucked.